Welcome in to yet another special edition of Sport Ball. I'm your boy Sam. With me, as always, my two good friends, Seth and Kyle. Kyle is in Wheaton, where he resides. Seth, rumors say, is in a different state entirely.
Sources say
I
Seth
guess you're always
Kwan,
in a different state, though, so that doesn't really mean anything.
different state of mind. Am I right?
Thought you were going to elaborate on that.
Thought wrong.
So you're in New York City, huh?
The concrete
New
jungle
York
where dreams are
City.
made of.
Exactly.
That's an Empire State of mind.
Went to my favorite New York style pizza joint, Sbarro. And no, I'm actually staying in a dorm room, but I have the entire suite to myself. So I have approximately 4 rooms and 12 beds and 2 bathrooms just for me for the next 2 nights.
Why is he staying in a dorm?
I'm at a student affairs conference at St. John's.
Have you seen Rick Pitino yet?
I have not seen Rick yet.
Does Jasmine know you're having an affair?
With the
She does
students'
not.
affairs? Well, this is dedication, Seth, that you're joining us from a work trip. And
Welcome.
some
And it's East
some
Coast time, so it's
sources.
an hour later here.
Oh, you had to get that in, didn't you?
I did.
And some of my sources, my birds, my little whisperers on the street have told me that you've already had 3 glasses of wine tonight. Is that true?
I mean, technically, there were plastic cups, so I don't know if that changes it at all.
Only the
But
finest for him. Plastic cups of wine and Sbarro pizza.
yeah, I haven't actually had
Good.
Sbarro since I've been here, but
Well, I'm hoping that that wine really lends some credence to your takes.
something's got it, right?
Kyle,
True.
word on the streets of Whedon, are you stone cold sober right now?
That's facts, but I'm always high on life, baby.
We gather here on this pod today. This is our last pod of the summer, by the way. So
Need it.
everyone enjoy it while we take a much needed break the rest of the summer. Because we're not covering baseball, that's for sure. Don't get your baseball talk here. What we're here to cover is the NBA Finals, which just ended. And boy, we went to a game 7. Pacers, Thunder. We were all hyped up. The most excited we've been in years. We haven't had a game 7 since 2016. And it was kind of soured by Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles 7 minutes in.
Kind of.
Very, very strange game after that. But before we go into Tyrese's injury, I do want to give our flowers to OKC because they were the best team all year. And they pulled out this game 7. Even after the Tyrese injury, it was nip and tuck for the first half, but they pulled away in the end. They ended up winning by 12. Their defense was dominant all season and in the playoffs. And, you might even say they're a little ahead of schedule, second youngest team to make the finals. And they pull off the win. And it looks like they're going to be one of the best setup teams for the rest of the decade. Kyle, I want to give you the floor to wax poetic about your OKC Thunder, who you've fallen in love with over the last few years. They've done it. They did the damn thing. They won the championship.
Feels good to finally have one of your guys win. Multiple of your guys win. But yeah, I mean, absolutely historic season capped off by, the title favorite doing what they done all playoffs. I mean, just thinking back through the course of the playoffs this year, they had 2 game 1 losses at home on buzzer beaters.
Yeah.
Ended up winning obviously both of those series. And along with that, in pivotal closeout games, the game 7 then against Denver, they held them to 93 points and forced 23 turnovers. Closeout game against Minnesota held them to 94 and forced 21 turnovers. And then obviously, unfortunate, Halle out. But Game 7, NBA Finals, held Indiana 91 points, forced 23 turnovers. I mean, it just really encapsulated what they've been and what we've thought them to be all season in regards to just an absolutely dominant defensive team. I mentioned it to you guys. Obviously, we haven't potted in a while, but there were some questions I had along the way, especially in the finals. There were some decisions by Dagnall and rotations were just so weird and out of whack. Um, it felt a little too cute at times, a little unnecessary, but when push comes to shove, uh, the guys stepped up, did what they needed to do. Uh, Even when TJ McConnell looked like he was single-handedly going to win Game 7 of the NBA Finals by himself. Um, yeah, defense stepped up in an absolutely massive way. I think Shea had. I did go back and watch a lot of like the highlights of the game. Obviously, I had questions during it as to like why is Shea holding the ball for so long, and he was doing it a lot all playoffs. Obviously, his passing numbers, his assist numbers, for the most part, were down compared to where they were during the regular season.
Mhm.
But that last game, as I watched it back, at least some stretches and all the highlights, absolutely masterclass by him. The way he was controlling the defense, it was planned at least in that game that he was going to wait until the last second. Most of those passes were jump passes, which I don't think we've really seen him do at
Yeah.
all year. So he would look like he's at the peak of his shot, and then he'd turn and toss it to. A lot of time it was Caruso, found Dort on one or two. Um, yeah, it was just leading to completely wide open shots, wide open rolls in the lane. He was hitting, Chet and Hartenstein. 12 assists probably could have been like 16 if a lot of those wide open 3-pointers that came off his passes did go down. I mean, as we all know, Lou Dort shot 2 for 9. But man, that second one that he hit was just an absolute. That was it. That was the game essentially at the end of the third quarter. After that run that the Pacers had, Lou Dort comes, has a grenade in between the 3-point line and half court, and chucks up just an absolute moonball as he always does, straight through the net. He doesn't move. Crowd goes crazy. He just stands there, arms up, and stares at them. You knew it was over. I don't know how. I don't know how they don't do it again next year, to be honest.
Yeah. Honestly, I
There,
mean, they
there's rumors
are.
too. They're trying to trade up into top 10
Yeah.
in the draft this year. So there's someone that they're already targeting that they have a plan for. Uh, Knowing Presti, I'm sure it's going to happen. They have literally all the assets in the world. It's them, and then in this draft, I think 25% of the draft picks belong to the Brooklyn Nets, and I don't expect them to do the right thing with any of them. Plus, you have a lottery pick already that's going to be returning or playing for the
Topic.
first time next year. So it's just abundance of riches. Yeah, an incredible run. Couldn't be happier to see one of my guys finally make it. Multiple of my guys finally get it done.
And like you said, Kyle, they're set up incredibly for years to come as well. They're not just a win now team. And any doubts we might have had going into these playoffs have been erased. Doubts. I don't think not necessarily anyone in this podcast had them, but doubts whether Jalen Williams can be the number 2 of a championship team. Okay, he almost won Finals MVP, if anything. He was
He had
Scottie
some
Pippen-esque in
outrageous,
this
yeah, he had
series.
some absolutely outrageous games offensively, obviously, in the finals. Just like um his decision making in general and like his willingness and like no hesitation to just when his shot wasn't falling, just go, just get down the lane, get to the rim, a lot of times he was finishing them. And if he wasn't, he was getting fouled. And even if he was finishing them, a lot of times it was and ones. And I feel like we didn't see him. That's something I do want to go back and look. I want to see like what his drives per game were in the playoffs versus what he was doing in the regular season. Chet too, absolutely massive. I mean, you could look at the offensive numbers and say, yeah, it wasn't that great, but he was the heart and soul of that defense, truly. I mean, most blocks in Game 7 in NBA history with 5. Just absolutely tremendous. I think he had the best point differential on off of the Thunder, surprisingly. So yeah, all around it was masterclass, really, with questions, but ended up being a masterclass by the Thunder.
Yeah, and Seth, the Thunder are plus 220 to win the finals again next year, which you look at that number and you think, wow, that's low. But I mean, like Kyle said, we expect them to be right back there next year, barring any sort of injury. They're going to be a year older, a year more mature. Chet's probably going to start to blossom even more offensively. I don't see a lot of competition for them, and they're bringing basically the same team back with maybe Topic back with maybe a draft pick. I mean, I think the West is theirs to lose next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely theirs to lose. They're definitely the team to beat. And as many people have said, I think they're better set up to win now and in the future than virtually any team we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
However, I still don't feel like that's a guarantee. I don't feel like the league next season is going to be like we felt when KD was on the Warriors, where it was almost a foregone conclusion that they were going to win unless there were like 2 catastrophic injuries. I feel like 2 years ago, Denver won. And after I thought, oh, wow, who's going to beat them in the West?
This team is so much
year,
better than Denver, though. I mean,
way
Denver
better,
didn't even have
way
another
deeper.
all-star.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing. If you
We just jump on him immediately.
I mean, they obviously have their entire starting 5 coming back. Reserves, the only questions are the 2 team options for AJ Mitchell and big Jalen Williams, Jay Will. I would assume they probably pick up Jalen Williams. I don't know. Don't think AJ Mitchell is really necessary, but otherwise, everybody besides those 2 basically are guaranteed. They're back.
Okay.
Then you have.
I mean,
they're also $8 million under the first apron still.
I started off by saying that they're better positioned for future success than any team in history. So it's not like I'm disagreeing with y'all. But to take the other side, I mean, you say they're way better than Denver, but Denver this year was significantly worse than they were 2 years ago, and they took them to a Game 7. And who knows if Halliburton hadn't gotten injured, it's probably still unlikely, but there was maybe a 35-40% chance that Pacers win that game.
That's a high chance. That's
Zach Lowe said 40%. So, and if that happens, then we're not having this conversation, right? So all I'm saying is there's a lot that can happen in the NBA. There's unexpected things that happen every year. And I think they are far and away the team that you would pick to be most likely to win the championship. But if it's, am I taking the Thunder or the field? I think that's still open for debate.
I think I
based on Vegas odds, it was a 27% chance the Pacers won that game.
Well, they were up 1 at halftime without
nothing.
Tyrese. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were still in the game without Tyrese. It was I think it was gonna be an epic game. Like when coming in, I kind of thought Thunder will win a close one, and I think that's what it was gonna be if Tyrese didn't get injured.
And, I mean, Tyrese was 3 for 4 from deep before he got injured in 7 minutes. And that's normally the thing that you say, oh, if Tyrese is scoring, then the other team's really in trouble. So it was like setting up to be, like you said, an all-time game.
Definitely
So
not 100% chance the Thunder win that game for sure if Tyrese doesn't get injured, even though I would still favor them. And I think there is like a lot of variance with 3-point shooting and just with the way the game is played now. It might be hard to go on a run where you don't run into a game seven like they did this year against the Nuggets, against the Pacers with a couple crazy buzzer beaters thrown in, right? Which was just kind of bad luck. So I would still take the Thunder over the field though next year, I think, just because I don't see anyone close to them in the West. Maybe the Rockets with Kevin Durant, which we'll discuss later. Maybe the Timberwolves, maybe the Lakers. And then in the East, with this Tyrese injury and with the Tatum injury, I just think that if, there's no crazy shooting variance that goes against them and no crazy injury luck that goes against them, I think Vegas has got it right with these odds, even though plus 220 seems crazy for them to be returning champion.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. It's like, are we really gonna look back and say, well, they went to 2 game 7s? I mean, at the same time, coming into the playoffs, everyone was all like, well, yeah, but they haven't done it yet. So are they gonna do it? Well, we saw them rebound from the year before where they got bounced in the at the conference finals. Yeah.
not even.
No, the round before the conference finals, that's right. Um, and then come and then have to get some additional scars. I think one thing I would
Yeah.
expect going into next year and into the playoffs next season is that Dagnall has his head on his shoulders a little bit more and doesn't try to get too cute, doesn't, foul 90 feet from the basket
You can
to
only
put
hope.
someone down the line when you don't need to necessarily, or at least not that far. So I think there's a lot of things that have also been learned, which obviously makes their ability uh to win it again even that much better than it was this year, where for the majority of the season again they were around that 250, 200, minus 200, minus 250 mark. So I don't think it's that
Yeah.
crazy at all.
And um like you said, Kyle, this was really their first. Like, I'm really excited for their title defense because now they've done it. Now they have that knowledge that they can do it. I almost think maybe they'll run through again, Seth, like you said, anything can happen in the league, but I almost think they might run through the playoffs, with less resistance than they did this year. Now that they know they can do it and they're a year older, a year more mature, Dagnall's a little better at coaching. So that's kind of, I mean, it's hard to say it's a year away, but that's kind of how I feel like next year might go. And it'll be very interesting because there hasn't been a repeat champion in what is it now? 7 years? It's been a long drought
That sounds
since the
right.
Warriors won the back-to-back. So South Celtics attempted to do it this year, couldn't pull it off. I'm interested to see if the Thunder can start to go on a little run here. And statistically, their number of wins, their point differential, how badly they beat teams in the playoffs, they're kind of up there. They're not on the level of, the teams we always hear about, the 96 Bulls, the 71 Bucks, the 86 Celtics, the 85 Lakers, the 17 Warriors. They're not on that level, but they're not far behind as far as point differential and wins go. And I think a repeat championship would kind of just cement, okay, this is one of the all-time teams. This is one of those teams that we're going to think about historically, and they're going to be up there with the Lakers, with the Celtics, with the Bucks, with the Warriors, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of excited for them to try to defend it.
Yeah, it'll be great to see next year. And I mean, just the Western Conference playoffs next year
Oof.
with how much of a gauntlet it's going to be.
I would
Get
love to
excited
see
already.
Houston OKC Western Conference Finals next year would be
Kevin
cinema.
Durant revenge game against OKC. Revenge
Kevin
series
Durant,
be wild.
SJ scoring 30 points a game while their teams only score 90 each. I mean, we do have to discuss, Seth, the Tyrese Halliburton injury, which, as I said, really put a damper on the game. He had a calf strain. He played on it. I mean, it's game 7. you're not going to stop him from playing. Probably he tore his Achilles, reminiscent of the Kevin Durant tear in the finals. Just devastating for him and for the Pacers, especially since they're on such a magical run. I feel kind of sad for the Indiana Pacers fans, um, and the team itself. You could see the emotion after the game with him waiting in the tunnel for everyone, and everyone just TJ McConnell crying, going up to him and
Mm.
hugging him. It made the whole game feel weird, and I think everyone, including the Thunder, probably wished that it hadn't happened and that it was just a normal epic game 7 that it was gonna turn out to be.
Yeah, it was really just a worst case scenario overall. Like I was cheering for the Pacers just for the upset and for the story and their magical run. I wouldn't have been that disappointed if the Thunder had won, but I wanted to see a good game, and obviously just the devastation of that injury where Indiana's on the brink of potentially winning a championship, first ever, and then now that crumbled, and not
Yeah,
only that, but next season is basically down the drain as well, which is similar to how I felt with the Tatum injury, but we weren't
right.
in game 7 of the NBA finals. So it's, that same feeling multiplied by 10. And you just, it was just heartbreaking to watch. Um, there have only been a handful of other injuries like that where I was watching that were, as a neutral fan, that I was watching that were that heartbreaking, and you just wish it had never happened.
Kind of like the Klay Thompson one in the finals too.
Yeah. But you know what? That's part of the game, and honestly, is a concerning trend that we've seen in recent NBA history. And I've seen a few people talking about it and what are some of the reasons, and that the average player runs 200 miles more than they did back in the day, and
Wow, is that the number? That's kind of
yeah,
crazy.
I'm not sure exactly when they were comparing it to, but I saw that from somebody who's been like researching load management. Um, so, and I mean, it makes sense with pace and space, right? So much room running around, more threes, more fast breaks, just more movement than playing back to the basket, post ups, clogging the paint,
Yeah,
all of that.
more quick cutting back and forth.
Yeah. Um, but you would think that like with medical advancement and new technologies and better shoes and better health and nutrition, and that it would like counteract some of that. But
I mean, the thing is like there's a high correlation, obviously, with like injuries that Tyrese had coming into the game
Yeah,
and Achilles tears then. Um,
doesn't help for sure. If especially if you have a calf injury right beforehand.
yep.
and that specific like play is the same exact way that the other two Achilles injuries happened during the playoffs. It's the why am I blanking on the name of that? Either way, player steps back and puts essentially all of their weight on that foot of the
Yeah,
leg
trying
that's
to like
injured
explode forward.
to explode forward, and the body can't handle it. So it's like there needs to be a lot more caution when it comes to calf injuries or strains or whatever it may be. I feel like in the NBA, like I feel like they should honestly probably put some sort of um
Like the
minimum
concussion
number of
protocol.
games
Yeah,
missed, yeah, that you have to like take before. Um at the same time though, it's like it was really nearly a lose-lose situation for Halliburton, at least, in the
right.
sense it's like, well, he doesn't play in the two most important games of his entire NBA career, or he does, and what happened happens. So
Right.
there's
Mm-hmm.
that very slim chance, obviously, that it doesn't happen, but more or less,
I mean, I don't think it was a slim chance that he doesn't get injured.
Right. What is it, like a 20% chance he tears his Achilles or something like that? They must
Yeah, I
have
mean,
thought the
it's
risk
it's
was
much
low enough.
higher. It's much higher than a normal game without a calf injury. But it's not like, oh, he's
correct.
walking out there. Okay, guaranteed
100%
he's
chance
going
I
to
tear
tear
my
his
Achilles.
Achilles. Like,
Well, no, I guess I didn't mean it like that. Just in terms of the fact that, like, if he doesn't have a calf injury,
Right.
the chances of that happening are,
right.
like you
He's
said,
at much increased risk. Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder what the chances would have to be. Like you tell him before the game, hey, you have a 50% chance of tearing your Achilles,
He's still
but it's
playing.
game 7 of the
It's game
finals.
7 of the finals.
What would the
Any
odds have
single
to be up
NBA
to?
player is playing in that situation. It's just the
Yeah.
unfortunate part
What
of
if
it.
they tell him there's a 100% chance, but we don't know when it'll happen? Do you think he plays in hopes it happens in the fourth? He might, dude. I'm
No.
serious.
Yeah, no, I think you have to still. You put the city on your back, you put the team on your back, you go out there, you ride it out until it happens, and you hope you're at a point in the game where you're either
That's what I'm
leading
saying.
or you're tied, and that really sparks the rest of the team to close it out for you.
Like, what is a
Every single
year
NBA
lost of
player
your
is doing it.
career?
Yeah,
What is a year lost of your career if you win the championship?
exactly.
Or
It's nothing.
you still lose the game and you lose a year. Like, what actually happened?
Right. What
And
if they
you
told him, hey, you'll
gain-
tear it in the fourth?
But you also gain millions of fans that probably wouldn't have gained for going out there and doing it in the first place. So
True.
if you put it that way, it's really
He's
a
like-
win-win-win.
He's like a martyr. He's Ned Stark, baby. All right. The other interesting thing about this injury is the East next year, Kyle. I mean, Tatum gone with injury. Tyrese gone with injury. It's really down to, it seems like, the Cavs, the Knicks, and the Magic, with the Celtics lurking maybe, if they can have a puncher's chance and Brown and Derek White lead them to the fourth seed. It really seems wide open. And with that trade, the Magic did, which we didn't have a chance to discuss. We didn't pod after that trade, but they traded for Desmond Bane from the Memphis. It seems like they're making a run at it. The Orlando Magic could easily make the finals next year. And I would just
Very
put
much
them
so.
third behind the Cavs and the Knicks.
That is how the odds are listed.
Vegas agrees as usual with me.
Cavs, Knicks,
are we
Magic, and
underrating
then
the
still
Cavs?
Celtics.
We probably are.
Yeah,
I mean, going into the playoffs, we were like, all right, there's a top tier in the league. It's OKC, Cavs, and Celtics. And
Correct.
then now Indiana went on this magical run. They knocked the Cavs off, and now we're talking about them as if they're like just another team in the East, when all regular season they were
that's
better
true.
than everyone in the East.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. Maybe I guess it's how it sounds, but I'm not. I think what needs to play out still is the off season. That affects a ton. There's a lot of unknowns, right? There's talks of the Knicks still trying to make a different move. Who knows if the Magic are done?
All right.
I don't know if the Celtics. I don't think the Celtics are still done. We'll get to them, I think, shortly. But the Cavs, in and of themselves, may be making moves too, right? I heard that they were dangling Garland out there for Kevin Durant trade. So I don't know. Nobody knows what the hell the East is going to be come October of next year when we start the season.
Yeah.
But if they do just run it back as is, they're the hands-on favorite to win the East again, in my opinion. They were just riddled with injuries at such an unfortunate time. And it's like, we talked about it a few weeks ago too, when they lost to the Pacers, that like we didn't really wait in the coaching in the playoffs as it relates to playoffs. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we do see, especially teams of this kind of caliber, bounce back and learn from the mistakes that they made. I shouldn't have had this kind of rotation. I shouldn't have been doing this with the two bigs. I shouldn't have been subbing here. I think a lot of that gets extremely cleaned up come next playoffs. And yeah, I think they end up being the favorites to win the East the entire year.
Well, and
unless the Knicks make some sort of major splash.
Yeah. I mean, the other part is the Garland injury, who now is going to miss he's not even going to be ready for the start of the year,
Right. It was
right?
worse than
And he
we
was trying
thought.
to play through that. So it's like that was a significant injury, and they also had Mobley and DeAndre Hunter miss a game, and so I mean, there's lots of reasons, right?
Right.
Including what you were talking about and the injuries. You never know what'll happen next year, but I just feel like everyone's talking about the East is wide open, even though there was a 64 win Cavs team last year that's going to come back and probably be better.
Great point. And it's like they must feel so much better now that the playoffs are over because when they first lost to the Pacers, it was like, what's wrong with us? We lost to the
Right.
Pacers. Like, I know we had injuries, but we didn't play well. They kind of kicked us out of the gym. Now it's like, okay, well, they made the finals. I mean, they took
Took
OKC to a
OKC to
game
game
7.
7. Yeah.
Right.
You know what I saw actually? The Pacers and the Thunder were the only two teams to go undefeated following a loss in the playoffs this year.
Mm.
OKC
Un-
was
until the finals,
6 and
right?
0. Right, yeah, until game 7. Right?
Yeah. Well, because
Or was it game
Indiana won game. No,
yeah, it's game 1 and 3 they
they
won,
just
right?
went back and forth,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Uh-huh.
They won. Well, OKC won games 4 and 5, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's
So,
right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I they were both those teams were like ridiculous after losing. They would just bounce right back.
Sam is completely frozen. He has been for about 2 minutes now.
We've been trying to filibuster, but
Can you
there's only
guys
so
hear
much
me?
we can do. Oh,
Yeah,
he's
so we can
back.
hear you now. Your face is still frozen.
Well, you don't need to see my face.
I
I
still see
prefer
it. I
Yes.
not
just
to.
don't like the freeze frame.
Yeah, so I feel like if you're the Cavs, you're like you said, East is wide open. We're a 64 win team. Yeah, we lost to the Pacers, but they made the championship and their best player got injured. So let's run
Yeah,
it back. We're fine. Um, Meanwhile, in the West, Kevin Durant got traded. He got traded
heard of
to the
him.
Houston Rockets. The Rockets traded him for Jalen Green or received him for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th pick in the draft, and 5 second round picks. Second round picks so hot right now. And I don't know about you guys, but I like this a lot for Houston. They didn't have
Home
to give
run.
up Jabari Smith, Reed Shepard, Tari Eason, the Suns' own pick. They didn't have to give them back that they own. I think it's a low risk, high reward move where they didn't have to give up much. And Kevin Durant is the one thing they were most missing in their playoff run, which was a clutch shooter and scorer down the stretch of playoff games. And I mean, Vegas has them listed as such, and I think they should be the second best, second favorite for the title in the West next year.
Yep.
What do you think, Kyle? Do you like this move for them?
Very much so agree. I mean, that was the biggest concern that we had going into the playoffs, right? Was like, who's the go-to scorer? Who's the guy that can create a bucket? Who's the guy that can kind of lead them through a dry spell? And now you've got one of just like the purest scorers that we've seen in this century, probably. Guy that's been there, he's won a ring. So I think he brings everything that you possibly want, as well as like the ability to have one of it. I'd be surprised if they're not top 3 in defensive rating come the end of the year. It's more than likely OKC, Cleveland again, um, and then Houston. Durant was asked to do so much defensively on Phoenix, yet he still was a extremely efficient scorer, like he has been his entire career. And now he, with the surrounding cast in Houston, has the opportunity to kind of not exert anywhere near as much energy on the defensive end as he's had to for the last, God, however many years of his career. Um, so yeah, I think I would love to see that Western Conference Finals matchup, OKC, Houston, Durant, back to where it all began. Um, in a game 7 would be such an unbelievable scene.
Yeah, I mean, just the Durant factor going back against OKC would be unbelievable, setting aside the basketball of it and how
Yeah.
fun it would be to see those two teams match up. Um, yeah, I mean, Kyle, you and I were both big Houston fans this year. Not so much Sam, but ultimately, I guess Sam was right. So, uh, I think adding Durant to the mix is great, and the fact that they really hardly gave up any assets. Honestly, you could argue Jalen Green with his contract was a negative asset, or at least like neutral. And then they're giving up some second round picks and Dylan Brooks, who's a polarizing player. I'm not a big fan, but not on a super big contract. So then that just begs the question, well, is Houston done or are they still making moves? They certainly still have the assets to get somebody even bigger than Kevin Durant. They don't need to cash those in. They could just get rolling with this team and continue to develop and see which of their younger players are going to pop and go from there. Or they could decide, you know what, trade deadline, maybe Giannis is available.
Yeah,
Maybe they're going after Jalen Brown. Who
right.
knows? Um, but I think they're in a really good position for the future with the number of young players that we have that they have that we love, and Phoenix's picks moving forward.
I've seen a pretty convincing theory on Twitter a few days after the Durant trade of Houston not picking up the team option on Van Vliet, going out, snagging Harden, reunite the two, where Harden almost got it done by himself for the most part. And there was Chris Paul, obviously, the 1 year, but reunite them. He's essentially a better Van Vliet, anyways. And let him roll.
I can't argue with the fact that he is a better Van Vliet, unless Van Vliet just had a child.
True, which he
Is
should maybe he should be planning 9 months ahead of the playoffs. You know what to do, Fred.
Isn't it crazy that Harden, Russ, and KD have all played for OKC and Houston? And then what if they just meet each other in Western Conference Finals?
True.
Little family reunion.
Westbrook is he a free agent, right?
He's available.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give him a
Why
call.
not?
Honestly, you could be kind of nice for the Rockets.
He'd be a really nice off the bench guy that's actually gonna just drive to the rim and get to the foul line, and you're at least confident that he gets to the rim, where it's like it's not just everybody standing around who's gonna do what. So
He's like a way
I think
worse
they should
Amen
do it.
Thompson.
You talked me even in the Westbrook into this equation.
Westbrook, Harden, KD. Get them all in the Rockets. Let's see what happens this time. Is Serge Ibaka available?
No, but I think Serge Ibaka was on the Thunder. I was gonna
I
say
guess Steven Adams is there, and he was.
Yeah, he's a Thunder.
Steve was there too.
Can we get Nick Collison?
I was gonna say Nick still looks good.
He looks
We see him
great.
a
They
lot the
showed him
last
at the
couple days.
celebration. Yeah,
Yeah.
he could play.
His jersey's
Phoenix.
retired at OKC. Did you guys know that?
I know.
As it should be.
I completely forgot that it was until they had that on the monitor for like a minute and a half by itself.
I know. I mean, he's like the heart and soul of OKC, apparently. There is no heart and soul of the Suns.
Greatest Thunder of all time, though, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? It's not even a question.
I mean, Kevin Durant didn't give him a title, so
Yeah,
I guess
he's
yes.
the old, like,
Did Kevin
is he the
even give it?
greatest player to have ever played for the Thunder? Not yet, but he's brought more to the Thunder franchise than anyone else. So
Right. So yes, I mean, it'd be interesting to go over because he's been there almost as long as KD has, probably, right? So what has he been there, 5-6 years? I want to see when KD left and when Shai's at that same year. Let's compare their careers with OKC.
All right, you filibuster for
Well-
talk for a bit, and I got it.
I'm
Okay.
guessing KD was in the 07 draft,
He was there for 8 years, I think.
and then he left in 2017. I thought it was like 9 years, then 10 years. 9
2016.
was his
Yeah.
last year.
Right. So 9 years, yeah. Well, are you counting the Sonics?
I guess it's 07 to 08 was his first year. He was in
Yes,
the
that's
07
correct.
draft.
Yeah.
So then it would be the 15-16 was his last year.
But you can't count the Sonics here.
Why?
Or are
Good
we? I
point.
don't know.
I don't know. Do we? That's a good question.
Well, they don't count the Sonics titles.
It,
They
Yeah.
don't count the Sonics championship, so I don't think we should count KD's
even though the
stats.
Lakers count the Minneapolis Lakers titles, but they're
Well, they
frauds.
didn't change mascots or color schemes or anything. It's like a different franchise.
So he hasn't been there as many
I
years yet.
How long has he
KD
been with
then
the
was
Thunder?
there for
Franchise.
7 seasons, right?
Yeah.
Shea's been, is it 4 or is it 5?
Only 4?
Yeah, it's only yeah, right?
Wow. Well, it's honestly already a conversation. And talk to me in 3 years, and it's
1,
probably
2,
cemented.
2, 3, 4, 5. Oh wait, I guess it's 6. My counting is terrible. 6 seasons. Okay.
That's like the weird thing about KD too. It's like it almost feels like he doesn't have a
2019,
team.
2020, 2024, 25.
Like who
Yeah.
is KD going into the Hall of Fame? Like what jersey is he wearing in the Hall of Fame? What's
I
his
don't
bust?
know.
What's his bust team for? I mean, is it the Thunder? Is it the Warriors?
I don't know. I have the
It's the
same question
Warriors
about
for the
Drew Holiday,
titles, right?
actually.
He's like the greatest nomad ever to play.
That's 100% what he is.
Yeah.
But I guess let me look at Durant's first, then just 5 seasons with OKC. Second,
I mean, 1 MVP each.
it's pretty funny. Their second season in the NBA, they were playing for OKC both because of the Seattle
Mhm.
move. Well, he played 82 more games than Shea over that time span. So KD 28.6 points a game. Surprisingly, Shea for that time span 27.4 only. I think that comes up obviously. Rebounds, of course, KD's got them 7.5 to 5 and some change. Shea 5.5 assists per game, more steals. It's pretty balanced in terms of like number of statistics each one has. 5 first-time All-NBAs though for Durant, so every season. Shea 3. Each one MVP in that same time span, but the only one to have a championship and a Finals MVP, Shea.
I mean, I gotta say, I think it's unquestionably Shea is the best OKC Thunder player of all time.
Yeah,
I mean, he's brought them a championship, so
That's such a weird career for Kevin Durant, man. I hope this Houston team has one great run left in them. I don't know how they're gonna get past the Thunder, but it just seems like I don't want his career to end with like such a, I don't know, unsatisfying ending like it seems like it's going to.
agreed.
Can we quickly do the Suns part of this trade?
Sure.
So they've created the only big 3 in NBA history to all play the same position.
I mean, it's
Devin
not even
Booker,
true, but
Bradley Beal, Jalen Green, 2 of which aren't even that good at basketball. And I don't know if they try to, get some sucker team to take Beal like the Chicago Bulls, or if they try to move Green after this deal. But
there's talks. There's
a
talks
buyout.
of the biggest buyout in NBA history, actually.
Oh my god.
I mean, if you could
What
Beal
is
on
that?
like a minimum or like a small contract, that's a pretty good asset, honestly.
So what is
Here's
Beal's
what I don't
contract?
understand. I guess the only argument is that like let me start from where I was going to. when you hear reports and you're any other team in the NBA that there's a team's either going to trade a player or buy them out,
Why would you trade for them?
besides, I guess,
Yeah,
getting
right.
a draft pick or two, what's the point of trading for them?
100%.
If you want that player, you can have them for free.
Just wait. Yeah.
That being said, your Chicago Bulls have traded for Bradley Beal.
Yeah. I mean, they'd have to, if they're getting off a Beal, they have to attach assets to him, and it has to be a team that can absorb his salary somehow.
Probably
So,
like Washington.
Yeah. Oh, the return.
he's vetoing that one for sure.
I just don't see there's no way the Suns walk into next season with Booker, Beal, and Green, right? Or
No way.
are they going
Jalen Green, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, Nick Richards,
Okay.
Vasily Misic. When did they get him?
When did they get Misic?
Grayson
From the
Allen,
Thunder?
Ryan Dunn. Well, previously, originally, I guess, of the Thunder, previously of the Charlotte Hornets.
Correct.
So they have what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 11 players that are under contract or
5 of
have
them are shooting
a
guards.
team option or non-guaranteed contract. Every single other player is a free agent. And they are projected to be $24 million over the second apron.
Jesus
And
Christ.
24 million over the second apron, and they're probably going to be like the third worst team in the West.
But guys, Matt Ishbia said there's
He just needs to
26
get more
other
involved.
teams. There's 26 other teams that would trade everything to be in their position. Okay.
Is there one other team that would trade spots with them? I don't know that there is.
I think there are multiple Eastern Conference teams that would, because that team still, I think, makes the playoffs, or at least the play-in in the East.
If you could trade spots and stay in the Eastern Conference, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Washington, I think would. Well, no, I think the upside of Washington is.
I kind of like what they're cooking in
Oh, and they
Washington.
don't want
Washington is
Beal
cooking
back.
up, dude. Yeah, they don't want Beal back either. That's true.
Oh, it's just
Charlotte?
brutal over there.
No.
That is
It
this
might
is
be Charlotte.
They
Charlotte.
got
I
Brandon
don't think
Miller
so.
at least.
I don't think so. They're not capped out like that.
You don't think Charlotte's doing that?
I don't think so, dude.
I think they would. When was the last time Charlotte was in the playoffs?
Sure, a
When
long time ago.
Chris Paul was there?
Is Charlotte paying the luxury tax? The second apron?
Yeah, there's no way.
Michael Jordan
no
owned the
way.
team and he bought him for $50 million.
Yeah, they would not be paying the second apron. So
Maybe the Bulls, honestly.
anywho, the Suns are a mess. They're a disaster of a franchise. Matt Ishbia is one of the worst new owners we've seen in decades. But maybe if he just gets more hands on, that'll
It's
solve
okay.
it.
He announced that, the thing he did wrong was not being involved enough the first couple of years. So he's going to change that.
Oh my god, it's outrageous.
Well, Seth, you're flying high right now, but we have to talk about your Celtics, and I know it's going to be a bittersweet moment for you because they held somewhat of a 2-day fire sale, and they might not be done yet. But what they've done so far is trade Drew Holiday to the Portland Trailblazers for Anthony Simons in 2 seconds. How they got draft picks in that trade, I'll never know. Then they traded Kristaps Porzingis, local hero, to the Atlanta Hawks in a 3-way deal, and basically just got some cap relief and a second-round pick back. Both of those moves basically duck them under the second apron. We knew they didn't want to pay huge money for this team with Tatum with an Achilles. You're not going to be a championship team next year, so you knew there were going to be some moves to get them out of under the luxury tax. Let's start with the Drew Holiday trade. I know you're sad to see him go. He's one of your favorite players, but honestly, he was not as good this year as he was in their championship run. He's an older player, and to get off him for a younger player and cap relief and 2 seconds, I think you did very well in that trade.
Yeah, it was simultaneously expected, inevitable, a very good trade, and also devastating. I think Drew Holiday's he's probably my favorite player for how little of a time he spent with Celtic. He's only on the team for 2 years.
Yeah.
Probably of anyone who's played for the Celtics for like less than 5 years, he's probably my favorite player we've ever had. So I hate to see it. I also feel bad for him personally. Like it sounds like he's not happy about going to Portland. I don't really blame him. You know, hopefully it's funny to like care about this, but I want him to like look back on his time with the Celtics fondly and not be like upset with the organization because I feel like he brought us so much and we owe him that. But like you said, it was just be malpractice to be over the second apron when we don't really have a chance to contend with Tatum out. So
Yeah.
they had to do it. They got the money right. They didn't give up additional assets to get off of the salary. We got some back. We got Simons, who great shooter, streaky a bit, below average defender. We'll see if he can figure that part out. You know, surrounded by better perimeter defenders. And we'll see if the Celtics keep him. But I think the big question next is, are they going to agree to some Godfather offer for either Jaylen Brown or Derek White or both? I can't imagine both.
I would not do that if I were them. I mean,
yeah, and I don't think they will. I think they're like, okay, we'll see what we can do next year. And then we'll come back the following year. Tatum, Brown, White is kind of the core, and then pieces around that being Pritchard, maybe Simons, right? We'll figure out if Al is going to retire, if they're going to get other bigs to fill in, what that is going to look like. But I think they're at least answering the phone if people want to unload all of their assets to get a Jaylen Brown.
sure.
Not Jaylen Brown. Hear me out here. Houston calls up Boston and says, Derek White, you can't touch Amen, Şengün, or Durant. Give us an offer.
What about Jabari and Phoenix's first?
That's what I'm saying. Like
that's it.
As a starting point, okay.
What if you go? You can. Well, do you even need Reed? I guess
all of Phoenix's
you can
future
go
first.
What if you go? What if you go? Reed Shepherd, Jabari, Houston first, and Cam Whitmore.
Phoenix first.
That seems like a lot for Derek White, but at the same time,
I think it would have to be at a minimum what Memphis got for Bane.
What's the age difference though? Isn't it pretty vast?
I don't think so.
No,
Really?
Isn't Bane like 28?
Well, you might be right, actually.
I think Derek White's
I don't think Bane's 28.
31.
Is Bane a better player than
Didn't
Derek White?
Bane come into the league at like age 24?
I think Bane was 30 when he entered the league.
Birthday is tomorrow. Will be 27.
Happy birthday, Desmond.
I guess
Let
I'm
us be the first to
fooled
wish you.
by Derek White's age. Yeah, the flyby king, as he goes by, apparently. Seth, trivia question. Derek White's Basketball Reference only nickname listed. What is it?
The Buffalo. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct. And actually, Derek White's birthday is in a week.
Happy birthday, Derek.
He'll be
How old is?
Yeah.
So there's a 4-year age gap.
I think you can hope
White
for like
is
3
technically
first.
over the age apex at this point.
I mean, didn't you trade only 1 first to get him, or was it 2 first?
Mm-hmm.
It might have been 2.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would think that they
I don't
actually
think they're
asked for
giving
less
up.
first and more assets, more like actual physical assets.
Right. I mean, I would say right, Reed Shepard is worth one first round pick, so that could be a
Yeah.
substitute. Or same with Jabari,
Jabari.
etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eason. So I mean, maybe I just don't think like I don't think they're looking to trade Derek White. So it's going to be something that blows them away for them to
Right. I think
consider
they
it.
should be open to offers, but I think if they don't get blown away, like just run it back, and you need a good team when Tatum comes back.
Yeah.
So you don't
So
want
I
to
don't
trade
think they're
everyone.
doing anything that's less than what Memphis got for Bane.
How do you feel about the how do you feel about losing Porzingis, Seth?
I mean, I didn't have as much of a personal attachment to him for whatever reason. Probably because he was in and out of the lineup for the 2 years he was on the team. Um, Obviously, he added a dimension to the team that brought them to a different level when he was right, but that was a little bit few and far between. So, and then honestly, this latest injury or illness, which in my opinion, most likely scenario is he has long COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's no
BLC.
guarantee at all that that is just going to be resolved for next season. So,
There were wild rumors on Twitter during the playoffs that this is actually just AIDS and he's on his Magic Johnson vibes right now.
Mm. I
could
mean,
be.
it's
I
something
don't like to
serious.
joke
It's
about,
something. Yeah.
I
obviously,
mean,
but the
it's a
symptoms are
viral
very similar.
infection. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but to me, it's like, okay, they're saying they can't diagnose it beyond it being a viral infection. Well,
Right.
what are the things that we like? COVID is new enough where maybe you can't like diagnose it for sure, but like
Yeah.
most other things, we have a way to diagnose them, I imagine. So, anyways, I mean, ultimately, they had to shed the salary. It's too bad it didn't work out to keep him, both of these players. And honestly, it's like kind of a bummer that this is the CBA that was agreed to,
Yeah.
whatever that was 3 years ago.
They kind of screwed it up,
Yeah,
it seems like.
it does feel like somebody should have stopped this, but it's what we've got. And so it applies to all the teams. And we just got to work within it. So I think it's a good move. Um, and I am curious to see how the Celtics kind of figure out their big men. Al still could come back, could retire. I don't know. Cornette, I think, is a free agent. Are we going to bring him back? Got Kada, Tillman. So will they bring somebody in? Will they trade to Simons for a big man? I don't know. But you had to do what you had to do.
Yeah. And I still think you'll be in contention in the East next year.
I kind
Real
of
quick,
wonder if like they're just with the two trades they made, obviously with Simons, and then they got back Niang, right? With
Yeah.
with the
Yeah, the
Porzingis
minivan.
move today. So it's like, wait, doesn't he have beef with Jaylen Brown?
Yeah. There was a thing
Really?
where he like grabbed Jaylen Brown's leg when Jaylen was like in the corner and Niang was on the bench.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh.
But either way, I wonder if I think that they are just going to break the record for 3-point attempts in a season next year, is what it seems like. And they're probably just like, if we don't have Tatum,
Right.
we still have some high level defenders. Maybe we don't need to play any true big man, but we
Just
do
3
have
and D all the way.
Hauser as, or not Hauser, what's his name? Who's the other big white dude?
Luke Cornett.
Yeah. Have Luke Cornett kind of just up our sleeves if we need to match a big man, and just spray and pray.
Yeah.
And honestly, in the East,
Right.
easily
So
enough to be top five
You're
seed.
gonna have enough hot shooting nights where there's no beating you. So that's a reasonable strategy. Real quick before we go, NBA draft. Is it tomorrow? Is it Thursday?
Yeah,
No, it's
It's
tomorrow
tomorrow?
and Thursday.
today when you're hearing this.
Well, who even knows? We might not even have released it
Might be yesterday.
yet. Number one pick is Cooper Flag for sure to the Mavs. Number two pick is Dylan Harper for sure to the Spurs. Kyle, what do your birds, your little whispers on the street, tell you happens after that? 3 through 8 seems wide open. Does Philly try to trade out of three? Do they just take VJ Edgecombe? What happens with Ace Bailey, who seems to be dropping and refuses to work out for any team? What do you think happens after those first two picks there?
Yeah, it's a tough one, I think, to try to pinpoint because if everything that I've seen is like if Philly stays, then it's Edgecombe.
Yeah.
But it also seems like there's a pretty high likelihood that Philly moves back. And in that case, I haven't seen many like suitors names in terms of like who they would trade back with. And that would be obviously a big deciding factor then in who the actual third pick is. If it's not Philly, I would think that it is still Ace Bailey that goes. That kind of shot making is hard to come by, obviously. And that's why I also feel like Edgecombe makes a little more sense potentially if Philly stays, just because of like, I don't think they really have anyone out. Yeah, I was going to say outside of an Embiid, but who knows how many games he plays anyways. But with that kind of like physicality on the wing, like he's just a uh, muscular, downhill, high flying, outrageous athlete. And I don't think that there's anybody else on that team that kind of fits that role.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you hear these rumors of teams trading up to three, but it's like you really got to love someone there. And I don't know if there's that much difference between the 3rd through 8th prospect, unless you really, like you said, fall in love with Ace Bailey and his shooting. Um, so I'd be curious if they just stay there and take VJ and say, hey, we can't be on Embiid's timeline anymore. Let's just get the best player available and build around Maxey and McCain at this point, right? I mean, you don't know if Embiid's playing more than 40 games ever again.
Correct.
Who do we want the Bulls to take at 12?
Uh,
If
if
Yakachonis
he
is still
could,
there, I would love it.
absolutely not. No,
You don't want him, or you don't think he'll fall?
I don't want him. What do we need another Josh Giddey for that's not as good as Josh Giddey?
We have Josh Giddey at home.
Exactly. I hope he drops Malawak.
Oh yeah, Malawad. I'm assuming he's not going to drop though. I wasn't even considering that as an option.
I
But
mean,
he'd be
anything's
my number
possible.
one. He'd be my number one if he falls. I don't think he's fallen that far though.
Yeah,
That kind of defensive upside.
it's
Can we
just
hope?
weird. I don't know what else. Like, are they gonna make any moves? We have way too many fucking guards, but I don't know. I do really like Colin Murray Boyles too. He's a little bit older, but I think he'd be nice on that team. But we also would then have, I don't know, we would be starting 4 guards again, and then Vucevic because we are gonna die with him.
Bold for life, baby. You think Patrick Queen might fall there?
Man, Derek Queen.
Yeah, sorry, Derek Queen. Patrick Queen.
There's less of a chance that Derek Queen falls than there is Malawak, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm just dreaming.
Think Cooper Flag falls?
If Cooper Flag falls, I would take
He'd
him
be
at
my number
12.
one choice.
The Bulls suck. Seth, any draft thoughts you want to get off your chest?
I did see reports. Sources say Celtics trying to trade into the lottery.
Mm.
So I don't know. I'm just excited for Cooper Flag on my dynasty team. So of
You
course my
finally got
dynasty
the number
team
one
took a
pick.
hit with the Tatum injury as well.
At least you get to replace him with the White Tatum.
Yeah, probably another year of tanking, and then next year when we strike.
That's what he tells his fan base every year. Just one more year of
Just one more
tanking.
year, everybody.
All right. Well, it was a great NBA season. It was a great NFL season. And now we're off for the summer. You won't hear from us probably until August, unless
Unless
something
we
crazy happens.
sneak in a WNBA playoff pod for fun. We'll see.
Or some crazy trade happens in the NBA that we just must talk about. But if not,
Nothing's off the table,
that's correct.
but
But if
very
nothing
little's
happens,
on.
we don't bring anything to the table anyway.
True.
Kyle, send our listeners off for the summer with something to wet their whistles and fill their ear holes while they
Yeah,
enjoy the nice weather and don't listen to our podcast.
this weather is anything but nice. Truly atrocious what we're being burdened with. Um, on the flip side, it's been a fantastic season watching the young Bulls in Oklahoma grow up truly before our eyes, get the first, sleep well over the summer. We come back, we talk about football a little bit, but then the real sport begins and we get to watch OKC do it all again. Sweet dreams over the summer, friends.